Richard. When I was 10 years of age, my mother asked me, she called me Winston, but you may not. What would you like to do with your life? I said, Mom, all I want to do is to help people. I went through high school without any specific dream in mind to become. I went to England and became a cinematographer and just did it because I did it. There was no joy. I left Trinidad in 1968 and came here to join my then wife. Still didn't know what I was going to do. It was in 1975. I was working in media at one of the universities in Toronto. And I had a headache for about, I would say, over 6 months, close to 2 years. And I never took care of it. And one day I was walking between the buildings on campus. And I felt I was going to fall. And Spirit said to me, go to the doctor. You know, a lot of macho men don't like going to the doctors. It's not that we don't want to hear. It's that we are afraid to know. He put me, call it a gurney, a cot, took my blood pressure and it was way high. He said if I get up and get a stroke and die. I stayed there for about 10 minutes. He came back and he tested my blood pressure again, but with bad news, you know what happened. Same thing. And I remembered saying to myself, copying the words of Betty Grable, I think, I want to live. I want to live. At that moment, I made a choice to live and not to die. If you have a dream, my dream was to help others. And I realized to this day that God had placed me in many areas of life to come to that moment, to discover the way to live or the path to a healthy, happy, and prosperous life. As I look back now, I smile at that moment because that moment was like the tipping point for me. I made a choice to be or not to be, to live or not to live, to grow or not to grow. You see, every moment in our lives, we are each making that decision. We choose to live or we choose to die. You see, the death that I am talking about is the stagnation and frustration that occurs when we refuse to move from a certain position and go to another. We could sit down in Egypt and be fed. We can go in the wilderness and suffer and tell people how sad the story is. Or we can choose to move to the promised land. Wherever you are being called by Spirit to move to a place that Spirit will show you You see, sometimes when we have a dream and we have a specific thing that we need to do, when we get there, we are still frustrated, we still feel lonely and unhappy, because that's not what Spirit wants for you. Spirit said unto Abraham at 75 years of age, get thee out of your father's house, away from your brothers and your family, and go to a place that I, Spirit, will show you. There's a reason for that. If you know the place you are going to, every time you look up, you'll ask yourself, is this it? Because you really don't want to do any more work. But when Spirit is guiding you forward, you don't know where you will pass through. When I was 10 years of age, I didn't know that I was going to be doing the ministry. Because by 12 years of age, anything ministerial was against me. Father, forgive me. Because I heard myself at times cursing ministers because of some of the rats who were living amongst me. I say rats because they weren't holy people as I thought holy people should be. So I judged them to be rats. Father, please excuse me. It's just a word that does not mean something that I thought they should have been. So I knew clearly at that time I wasn't going to go in that direction. In 1981, a friend of mine invited me to a center of truth called Christ Universal Center. And I went. And having recovered from my stroke syndrome, and having practiced the art of meditation and prayer, and getting closer to that inner self within me, I heard these words, I am one with God. And I said, yes, thank you, God. This is where I have to be. Because if this is what they're teaching, this is what I want. At this point, I want to say thanks to Rose Lester for bringing the idea Christ Universal Center to Toronto. I want to say thanks. By 1983, I was going to Chicago every summer to do intensives to become a teacher because I realized that's what I wanted to do, to help people through the words and through the meditations that I had been learning, to show people that life does not have to be a struggle, life does not have to be hard, that life is a flow that takes place. As Spirit flows, so should we. As the wind blows, so should we. There should be no struggle in life. By 1985, I received my teaching certificate. And I was planning at all times to head back down south to the Caribbean, to work with the Caribbean people. And then in 1986, of December 1986, I got a call one night. It says, Evan, what do you intend to do for the rest of your life? And I said, well, as I told you in the past, I was going to head down south and try to teach this amongst the people down there. She says, God has told me he has an assignment for you. Well, this is the big honcho Johnny Coleman. She says, I want you to take over this center called Christ Universal Center because the minister has said She didn't want to do it anymore. And God pointed me to you. But I said, but Johnny, this is not what I wanted to do. She says, it's not what you want to do. It's what God told me He wants you to do. And I said, give me a few days. Give me 10 days, I said, to think about it. And I worked with it and worked with it and worked with it, and I didn't see any possibility of me doing this. Because life was good. The pleasure was fine. My buddy and I, George, man, we were having a good time. About on the 8th day, I told my then wife, Johnny Coleman has asked me to take over the center, and I'm pondering. And she says, if you take it, I will not support you. And I said, God has spoken. That same night I called Johnny and said, I'm going to do it. December 19, that was about the December, about the 14th or so, 1986. And by the 22nd or so, I was in a plane to Chicago and came back. On February 1st, 1987, Johnny came to Toronto and confirmed me as the teacher director of Christ Universal Center. There's a piece of a psalm that I have always kept in my mind from since a little child. Because when I was a child, I experienced a lot of personal suffering. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will not be afraid. Because there are two things that God has: a staff and a rod. The staff is to hold me in when I make mistakes. The rod is to protect me from the things outside of me. This is a psalm that I say almost every day, because this path that I took from the call of Johnny, in no heavenly path, this was hell. But I also remember he descended into hell in order to experience heaven in the end. So sometimes we look at life as struggle. I came to realize that all of life is opportunity for us to discover who we really are, that we are powerful beings just being able to create through thinking images that no one else can see. And if you could believe and make a choice to live or die, all things become possible. All things are possible with you if you realize that all things are possible with God. If you come to know that you are basically possibility in the making, you are a potential waiting to come forth. You are a latent something hidden amongst your own thoughts. And if you could focus on that something, your light will begin to shine. We get so petty. During this time of ministry, man, they have said all sorts of things about Evan Reed. They have tried to do all kinds of things to Evan Reed. But if you come in spirit and try to stay in spirit, the 91st Psalm says, those who do what? Dwell or live under the shadow of the Almighty. All you need to do is to live under the shadow of God. Will say, the Lord is my fortress. Hello, my strong place. The Lord protects me. I know that wherever I go, God is. So that whatever is happening around me is pure illusion, shadow. But I know the shadow of God rests over me. I know that when I made this choice, I had to stand firm. I remembered when I took it over, there were 4 people. 2 were good friends and 2 were people in the center at that time. Promised to help me. And I discovered them then, as I discover now. When God calls you, God calls you. He didn't call them. So you don't listen to them, you listen to God. People will say you're cocky, arrogant. You don't listen. True! Because my ears are trained on the voice of God within me. Many will call you, but you must know whose you are. The good shepherd is calling you and would lead you in through the right gate. In the first year, those 4 people had basically left. When God calls you, He didn't call your twin. He calls you. And He places in your heart that little something called a light that you are meant to go within and find for yourself. Nobody can find that for you. You have to find that for yourself. It's a little dream of who you really are. It's not the job or the profession that you profess to do. It's that little something inside of you that regardless of what is happening outside of you, it comes forth. In my tenure, I know I've helped a lot of people. And I keep helping people. Silver and gold have I none. But what I have, I try to give. An understanding of truth. When you come here, I have nothing to give you. But what I am doing now, giving you some information that you could come to know yourself as this powerful being, able to change the course of rivers. Hello now. To put planes in the sky. To create atomic weapons and atomic instruments that can save mankind. You have that power. Within you is greatness. You don't need to become great. You are already great. When you know that for yourself, and you let that little spark, and none of us are the same. You see, we look at other people to copy what they're doing. No. Look to God and let God direct your path and let God tell you what you need to do. All you need is a little grain of match to light that potential flame within you. And look not on the outside. Look within. Jesus said, no man, having put his hand to the plow and looking back, is worthy of the kingdom. Your dream will never come true if you keep looking all over the place. Is this it? Could it be it? Was this it? No. Keep living. Keep moving forward. You know that the best is yet to come. One day, I know that I know that I know that little light will become a flaming tree, and the whole Spirit of God will engulf me. Making a choice. When you hear that word, make the choice to be, not to die. We die when we get tired. We die when we allow ourselves to procrastinate. Abraham, when he heard the voice, it says, he got up right away and he began his journey. Some of us have been sitting on the seat that God created in us too long. We get bed sores. Muscles that are not used become, after a while, unusable. You are a powerhouse. Stop telling your story over and over and get up and keep walking forward to that dream that you have. When you discover and recognize the power that you have to overcome, sometimes I sit back and I laugh. I say, oh my gosh, when you brought me to this place, man, I thought I would never get out. And look at me now, kicking my heels and moving all the time. You know, sometimes we make up the word hard. In God, it's all a flow. It's neither hard nor easy. And if you realize that, like the wind, you will flow, and anything that appears to you, you will have the knowledge and the wisdom to override. Stop concentrating on the little pettiness that is going on around you. Focus. Turn within. Become reacquainted with who you are. When you were a little child, you used to sit and think about these magnificent places you will go to and the things that you will do. Dust them off. That's who you are meant to be. The little child sits down under the tree, thumb in mouth, and daydreams. She sees an imaginary chalkboard, and she stands in front of it. She wants to be a teacher. Go tell the mama. The mama says, well, we have never had teachers in our family. You can't do that. Child reaches 70 and still wishes she could have been a teacher. The little pink ball. Do it now. If you don't do it now, you will regret. And to live a life of regret is to be full of despair, lost hope. It's to be miserable. It's to be unhappy. It's to be searching wherever you could search to find this little thing in you believing it's on the outside. Satisfaction could never come with things on the outside. It comes when you find who you are. Stop pretending who you are not. I've known many people who have become prosperous, head of departments, head of this and this of the that, and the recognizable one and everything. And they come to me, and I know they need help. Sometimes we need to surrender and come down from our lofty peaks and just say, I surrender. All to thee I surrender. Guide me, God. At this time, when we realize that we are suffering, we start to give thanks. So sometimes I go through life and I start to give thanks for some of the teachers I hated. And I laugh and see, these people were trying to push me. And I thought they didn't like me. I thank God for the people in my life who I thought who were against me. No. They were trying to send me blessings because I didn't know who I was. I interpreted what they were doing according to my understanding. Everybody where I have been absolute good, sent by God to teach me something that I needed to know about myself. And when I learned to get my small self out of the way, I began to realize, just like you, I am special. There's no other light like mine. And you are a special light. And when you realize how special your light is, by discovering it within yourself and sharing it with others, you get to realize that the world and the universe in which we live is a support system. It is not based on selfishness. It is based on love. I give to you. You give to someone else. Give to someone else. You know, it comes back to me. Like the rain that falls from the sky. It runs in the streams. The fish and the plants grow up. And some of it is returned to the sky to fall again. We are like that. We are spiritual beings flowing freely in and through God for one purpose, so that God could be manifested wherever we are as the pureness, the love, the joy, and the life of Christ, that wherever I am representing God as. So when I say, I am the light of the world, you should be seeing that light. So sometimes what we need to do is try to find out really who we are and whose we are. That discovery will set you free. There will be no time of where you're going to worry or be anxious anymore. Because you know what? My Redeemer lives. And today is my redemption day, because I have rediscovered who I am. God bless. This service will be in two parts. After this singing is done, we will move into a baptism service. We have 5 people present that we will do a baptism. So we want you to sit down and relax. As this song is being sung, just realize this song is for you.
Let the weak say I am strong. Let the poor say I am rich. Let the blind say I can see. It's what the Lord has done. For